What's up, brolly? If you're looking for some idea for a full DeepCool PC build, you came to the right place. Today we're building a PC around DeepCool's latest products, featuring the DeepCool CK560 chassis, Castle 240EX AIO, PQ1000M Power Supply, the FC120 Case Fans, and the ST500 ARGB GPU support bracket. We're also going to use the uber-fast Kingston KC3000 Gen 4 NVMe SSD and a few components from my main workstation. I'm really happy with how this build turned out, and I'm excited to share it with you. With that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so let's start with a quick introduction of all the components that we're going to use for this build. Just take in mind that this is not a build guide with a particular budget, and more like a feature build to give you some idea that you can possibly apply to your own PC build. But don't worry, as I will still share some performance benchmarks later, as I also plan on using this PC as my main workstation. So starting with the motherboard, I'm going to use the ASRock B550 Taichi motherboard that I was previously using on my test bench. And while I love my ASUS ROG Strix B550A motherboard, I wanted to have onboard Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, a front panel USB Type-C header, and the overall better features of the B550 Taichi. For the processor, I'm also going to slightly upgrade my AMD Ryzen 7 3700X to the more recent AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. This should provide me with better performance for both gaming and video editing. For the memory, I went for the safer route with the G-Skill Trident Z Neo 3600MHz 32GB kit, which should be sufficient enough for pretty much any multitasking activities. This should allow me to continue to work with multiple opened applications while exporting a video. Now for the graphics card, I'm still going to use my ASUS ROG Strix 3070, which I absolutely love, and personally, if I'm going to use any graphics card for my main workstation, it would always be an ASUS ROG Strix graphics card, simply because of its beefy construction, tried and tested cooling performance, and overall reliability for the long run. Now since the ASUS ROG Strix 3070 is quite heavy, it's a good idea to have some sort of support, so we're also going to use the DeepCool ST500 ARGB GPU support bracket. But honestly, this isn't really necessary for our particular build because the DeepCool CK560 already has a built-in GPU support, so this is more like an aesthetic part of the build, and just to let you know that DeepCool has one of these as an option. Plus, it has RGB, so that's plus 100 FPS, right? Going back for our boot drive, I've always wanted to use a Gen 4 NVMe SSD, so we're going to use a 1TB Kingston KC3000 Gen 4 NVMe SSD. This should allow me to dodge maps in Valorant and quickly get back to the game. Nah, I'm just kidding. This should help with overall application loading times, faster timeline scrubbing when editing videos, and just makes everything faster than usual. Now in terms of cooling solution for our processor, I'm going to use the white DeepCool Castle 240EX ARGB AIO, which should be enough to keep the temperature in check for our AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. Not to mention, it should perfectly fit with the black and white theme I'm kinda going after for this build. Additionally, it has addressable RGB for both the radiator fans and the pump, and the pump itself features a sort of infinity mirror design language. You can also quickly flip the DeepCool logo to accommodate any desired orientation for the pump. Now, for the rest of our internal components, I'm going to use the white DeepCool FC120 ARGB Case Fans with up to 1800 RPM for its speed and 61.91 CFM for its airflow rate. And what I like about this is that each fan has a single cable that carries both RGB and power, and that you can daisy chain them together and control both PWM and RGB for up to 4 fans. This makes cable management super easy with less cable to tinker with and without the need for a fan hub. It doesn't have an RGB controller though, so we're just gonna sync it with the motherboard. Now we're gonna power all of these components using the DeepCool PQ1000M. This is definitely overkill for our build, as I'll show you later on our benchmarks, but I'll take an overkill power supply over something around just the borderline any time of the day. And what I like about this is that it is fully modular with black cables and with an option to completely shut the fan for a quieter performance if desired. And finally, we're gonna put everything inside the white DeepCool CK560 chassis, one of the better options for a sub 5,000 pesos mid-tower case right now, with a combination of easy to remove panels and dust filters, partnered with a good set of input and output ports, including a front panel USB Type-C port. It also has a built-in GPU support, a substantial amount of cable management space, and overall a chassis that pretty much checks all my boxes. You can watch my dedicated unboxing and review of this chassis here if you're interested. Alright, so with all the components introduction out of the way, let's cue the build montage. Enjoy! There you have it. So building inside the DeepCool CK560 is super easy. I didn't encounter any issues or difficulties on any part of the build process. Mounting the case fans was a piece of cake thanks to the easy to remove front panels, and mounting the ASRock B550 Taichi motherboard was equally easy as well thanks to the pre-installed standoffs, and because the ASRock B550 Taichi features an integrated I/O shield, I didn't have to deal with that anymore. Now, mounting the DeepCool Castle 240EX is relatively easy as well thanks to the clear instructions on the manual, and that you don't really have to replace the default backplate. All you have to do is pretty much install the standoffs, brackets, and the pump, then screw in the 240mm radiator, connect the cables, and you're all set. Now, thanks to the included fan and RGB hub from the DeepCool CK560, managing all the fans for our build was pretty easy. I decided not to take advantage of the built-in controller of the chassis, but instead sync everything with the motherboard using the ARGB headers. And as you can see, thanks to the single M.2 NVMe SSD, I didn't have to deal with additional cables from hard drives or 2.5-inch SSD. But to be completely honest, I'm going to add more storage devices here soon. Now, installing the DeepCool ST500 ARGB GPU support bracket is also quite easy. All you have to do is install the PCIe bracket, install the GPU support bracket itself, and adjust the 3-axis support system depending on your graphics card's height. Overall, the final build looks absolutely fantastic with or without RGB illumination, and I like everything about it that I decided instead of using this chassis as just a feature build, I'm going to use it as my main workstation. Now, like I said earlier, even though this is not a build guide, I'm still going to share with you some performance benchmarks so that you can have an idea of how this build performs in both synthetic and real-world performance. But before that, let me pop my benchmarking methodology. As I always mention, this is quite important to disclose so that you can have a better understanding of how I came up with my results. Now, allow me to start with the 1TB Kingston KC3000 Gen 4 NVMe SSD, and as you can see, it is outstandingly fast with up to 7,376 MB per second read and 6,067 MB per second write. That pretty much checks out with its rated 7,000 MB per second read and 6,000 MB per second write. As per my testing, without a doubt, opening applications was a breeze, and scrubbing through my timeline and generating thumbnails when importing and editing videos are quite fast as well. Now, copying a 20GB folder to itself took only around 8 seconds, and copying the same amount of files into a slower Kingston NV1 NVMe SSD took only around 31.5 seconds. Now, here's how the Kingston KC3000 scored in 3D Mark storage benchmark. so that you can compare it with your SSD if you're interested. Next, when it comes to gaming, I ran a few here, and as you can see, at 1080p resolution, the combination of the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X and the ASUS ROG Strix 3070 partnered with 32GB of RAM makes up for a very capable gaming PC even with ray tracing on Cyberpunk 2077. And even at 1440p resolution, which is ideally the target resolution for this build, it is still quite capable, and you can definitely take advantage of higher refresh rate monitors like those 360Hz monitors for competitive FPS gaming. Now for video editing, which is what I'm particularly interested in, as you can see with our standard 13.92 minute 4K project, it was able to export the video in just 6.6 minutes. Now here are some standard 3D Mark and Cinebench benchmark results so that you can try and compare them with your system. Next, in terms of thermal performance for our CPU when gaming, the DeepCool Castle 240EX AIO did a pretty decent job here with an average temperature of around 59 to 66 degrees and spiking temps at only around 68.4 to 74.1. Idle temp is not bad as well at around 41 degrees. Now, the ASUS ROG Strix 3070, without a doubt, is relatively cool at all games, averaging only around 38.6 to 53.5 and not even reaching 70 degrees at max. Our AMD Ryzen 7 5800X spikes a bit hot on Cinebench benchmarks, but I'm not totally concerned about that since I'm really interested in real-world applications like the Adobe Premiere Pro, which averages only around 61.5 and not even reaching 80 degrees the entire exporting process. And lastly, in terms of total system power draw using an external wattmeter device, like I said earlier, our PQ1000M 1000 watts power supply is more than enough for the power draw of this PC build, even at its peak during maximum load. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with our build, and all I have to do now is probably add more storage devices, set this up as my main workstation, and I'm good to go. I'm happy that I now have a built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, a front panel USB Type-C port, and an easy-to-maintain PC. The upgrades that I did are probably not that significant when it comes to overall performance difference, but the additional features and quality of life improvements are definitely appreciated. Not to mention, a breath of fresh air in terms of aesthetics. And there you have it, guys. Thank you for watching. Huge thanks to DeepCool for sending some of their latest products, to ASRock for the B550 Taichi motherboard, and to Kingston for the KC3000 Gen 4 NVMe SSD. You can get all of these components using the link below. And by the way, watch out for a full DeepCool desk setup video where I will feature this PC build again alongside DeepCool's latest peripherals. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you like this, and see you next time. Have a great day, guys. You're awesome.